Hello, everyone. I hope I'm audible. Perfect. All right, let's begin this much awaited session that we've been planning for months now. Cooperative greetings to everybody. On behalf of the International Cooperative Alliance, Asia and Pacific, we would like to extend a warm welcome to all to our side event at the NGO Commission on the Status of Women, CSW 66 Forum. ICA Asia and Pacific, based in New Delhi, India, is one of 4 regional offices of ICA. As a regional office, our work includes uniting, promoting, and developing cooperatives in the Asia and Pacific region. The former UN Secretary General, Ban Ki-moon, once noted that cooperatives are a reminder to the international community that it is possible to pursue both economic viability and social responsibility. Our program on the theme, Women in Cooperatives, Combating Climate Change Together, in collaboration with our committees on women and forestry, is a proud acknowledgement of the contribution of cooperatives to the global fight against climate change and demonstrate how economic prosperity and concern for community can be implemented together. UN Women notes that climate crisis is not gender neutral, and so should not be our response to address it. In this program, we will hear perspectives and learn about cooperative response to climate change, keeping the gender lens in mind. We have 4 main sessions: the opening session on women in cooperatives, combating climate change together, presentations on natural disasters in Asia and Pacific, individual impact but collective response by cooperatives, panel discussions on safeguarding the future, making people climate resilient by future-proofing cooperatives, and closing session on the importance of cooperative identity for climate action. Without much further ado, we would like to proceed to the opening session where Ms. Natalie Browning, Deputy Chairperson of Cooperative Bulk Handling Limited, CBH Group, Australia, and board member of ICA Asia and Pacific, will present the thematic address. Can we have a video message played, please?
Hi, my name is Natalie Browning, and it's fantastic to have the opportunity to speak with you all today. I'm a grain growing farmer from Western Australia. My husband and I farm 8,000 hectares in the wheat belt of Western Australia with our 3 young children who are 14, 12 and 7. We farm 8,000 hectares in a small town called Condinum, which has a population of about 300 people. I'm also the Deputy Chair of Australia's largest cooperative, CBH, or Cooperative Bulk Handling. I was the first female elected grower director, elected to the board in the co-op's 85+ year history. After 2 years on the board, I was elected to the position of Deputy Chair in 2020. Late last year, I was privileged to be appointed to the board of the International Co-op Alliance Asia Pacific region to represent Australian co-ops throughout the region. I'd now like to tell you a little bit more about CBH and what we're doing to combat climate change. CBH is a grower-owned supply chain in Western Australia. We store, transport, export and trade grain all over the world, allowing our growers to receive the highest value possible for their grain. We also import fertiliser to help keep our growers' input costs low. We're Australia's largest cooperative and 3rd largest private company. We're the largest exporter of grain in Australia, and this year we've just received our largest ever crop, a record of 24 million tonnes. Of that 24 million tonnes, we will export between 18 and 19 million this year. Over the past 5 years, we've invested $1 billion into our network to improve its efficiency and sustain it for our next generation of farmers. The annual turnover of the CBH Group is between $3 and $4 billion, depending on the size of the harvest. Australia has certainly had its fair share of natural disasters over the past few years. with horrific fires on the East Coast in 2020. More recently this year, large bushfires across the wheat belt of Western Australia have occurred, and we've just experienced once-in-a-lifetime flooding across Queensland and New South Wales on the east coast of Australia. This flooding has affected hundreds of thousands of people, displacing them from their homes, and they've lost their businesses. Weather volatility caused by climate change is certainly having an impact here. And as a grain grower who relies on rainfall to grow crops, this is always a concern for our future sustainability. As co-ops, we certainly play an important role in understanding community needs and supporting their resilience, especially when responding to natural disasters. However, the focus is really on the future and how we can have a positive impact on the sustainability of our communities and our industry. Co-ops understand the implications and requirements of ESG perhaps better than listed entities who see things through the lens of investors and dividend returns. Co-ops exist to drive value for their members, and that goes far beyond financial outcomes. Let me break my views down on ESG a little further. In the area of governance, member representation keeps the organisation focused on member needs, and with that, strong governance is required. Co-ops tend to take a more conservative approach with a focus on the long term. In the social area, delivering social outcomes and ensuring the communities aren't impacted by our operations, but are enhanced by them and make them stronger. We seek for our communities to benefit from our businesses. In the area of environment, we make sure we leave a light footprint on the environments in which we operate, and we want them to be there for the long term. We also help our members to navigate the complex marketplace. For example, at CBH last year, 14% of the grain sold was sustainably certified. We've been tracking and reducing our carbon emissions and supporting growers in this process. We also do this so we can meet the future demand in the marketplace for carbon neutral grain. Women have a very strong role in playing in supporting sustainability and climate change. We have a really strong understanding of member and community needs, and we are supportive of the holistic outcomes we are trying to achieve. Overall, co-ops are well placed to support their members and communities with the changing ESG and climate landscape. Co-ops understand the need for their community through their members and are focused on ensuring they are sustainable and resilient for the future. Thanks again for having me here today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the forum.
Thank you very much, Ms. Browning, for that message. I would now like to call upon our Regional Director of IC Asia and Pacific, Mr. Balasubramanian Iyer, to preside over the next session on natural disasters in Asia and Pacific, individual impact but collective response by cooperatives. A very warm welcome to you, sir.
Thank you, Natalie, for your inspiring opening remarks and making the case for the important role cooperatives can play in meeting community needs, building their resilience, and creating sustainable communities. It's not just Australia, but the entire Asia-Pacific region which gets regularly hit by natural disasters. According to the Asia-Pacific Disaster Report 2021, titled Resilience in a Riskier World by UNESCAP, I quote, "The pandemic has shown that the new normal in Asia and the Pacific will be a disaster riskscape with increasingly complex, overlapping and cascading hazards. Climate change will slow the progress made in poverty reduction and may even reverse hard-won gains in development. To combat these, the report states, we need to take comprehensive action to protect the poorest at national, sub-regional, and regional levels. I would add here that it starts at the individual and the community level. Even here, we need to start with women as they bear the brunt of the impact, be it in terms of livelihood, burden of responsibilities, health, and violence. Our speakers in the first session are going to present the natural disasters that have hit their countries and the actions which cooperatives have taken to rebuild, strengthen, and make their members, women in particular, and communities resilient. Our first speaker is Ms. Chitose Arai. She is Vice President at the Japanese Consumer Cooperatives Union, board member of the ICA Asia and Pacific, and acting chairperson of the ICA Asia and Pacific Committee on Women. She will talk about the great East Japan earthquake and tsunami and the response of consumer cooperatives. Ms. Chitose Arai, the floor is yours.
皆様、こんにちは。私の声は聞こえてますでしょうか？新井千歳と申します。日本正教連副会長、ICAAP 女性委員会委員長代行、そして地域理事を務めております。本日はお話しする機会をいただきまして誠にありがとうございます。私からは2011年に発生した東日本大震災の正教への影響、日本正教連、全国の正教の対応、そして震災以降、正教の女性組合が主体となって進めている取り組みについてご報告いたします。まずはじめに、日本正教連、日本の正教の概要についてご報告いたします。日本正教連は1951年に設立された正教の全国連合会です。主な事業は、コープ商品の開発と会員正教への供給です。供給高は 40.4 億米ドルとなっております。日本の正教の総組合員数は約3000万人、総事業高は350億米ドルです。日本の正教の事業で多くの割合を占めるのが購買事業です。その他、共済保険、福祉、医療の事業も行っております。また、事業組織と組合組織の両輪で運営を推進し、組合員活動は女性組合員中心で地域で活発に行われています。日本は島国ですので、多くの自然災害のリスクがあります。2011年3月11日に発生した東日本大震災は、マグニチュード 9.0 の地震と、その後の巨大津波によって未曾有の被害をもたらし、さらに原子力発電所の事故にも発展しました。東北地方の宮城、岩手、福島の正教は、想像を絶する人的・物的被害を受けました。私たちの仲間である組合員や職員、その家族が犠牲となり、また正教の施設も大きな被害を受けました。そして福島の正教では原子力発電所の事故により放射性物質による汚染という被害にも見舞われました。震災の被害は首都圏の正教にも及びました。被災地の正教は被災者と組合員の生活支援を第一に事業継続に取り組みました。発災直後から商品を販売し、組合員の安否確認とお見舞い、自治体や避難所への緊急支援物資の提供、正教の施設での避難者の受け入れなどを行いました。それぞれの地域で支援方法を判断し、連日懸命な努力を続けました。被災地の正教が奮闘する中、日本正教連、全国の正教もいち早く支援活動を開始いたしました。発災直後から物資と人員を送り込み、被災地正教の事業復旧、組合訪問や救援活動の支援、 また、コープ共済契約者へのお見舞い金の給付活動に尽力し、全国の生協の連帯が大きな力を発揮しました。店内の損傷が激しく、野外で商品を販売する店舗もありました。また、商品が一人でも多くの人に行き渡るよう、購入点数制限も行いました。日本生協連は発災翌日に被災地に緊急支援物資を届けるために発災直後より積み込みを行いました。また、全国の生協も物資や職員を派遣し、職員が現地で救援活動などを行いました。発災直後から被災した女性組合員だけでなく、被災地から離れた女性組合員も行動を起こしました。全国の生協の女性組合員は被災地に思いを寄せて、発災翌日から店内や店頭で被災者の生活再建のための募金活動に取り組み、発災後1年間で約3900万米ドルもの募金が寄せられました。また、被災地の女性組合員は避難所に直接赴き、被災者のために手作りのおにぎりや温かいスープなどを提供しました。全国の女性組合員は被災地の要望に応え、タオルや古着などの生活用品を寄付し、寄付された生活用品を被災者の方に提供するお譲り会を被災者の女性組合員が実施し、つながりづくりを進めました。さらに、被災者が仮設住宅に移動してからも、女性組合員は食事の提供や居場所づくりを積極的に行い、被災者の孤立を防ぐため、心に寄り添う支援を定期的に行いました。女性組合員は復旧から復興へ時間とともに変化する被災地、被災者のニーズに応えながら支援を続けてきました。全国の生協の女性組合員が長期的に取り組んだ被災地復興のための募金活動は、2011年から2019年度までの約10年間で、募金総額は約4600万米ドルに上りました。また、仮設住宅の被災地のコミュニティづくり、孤立防止のために交流、楽しみの場を提供し、被災者の癒しとなりました。こうした活動は被災者の命と暮らしと尊厳を守ること、また生活再建の支援に発展いたしました。例えば、被災者が集いの場で作成した手作りの手工芸品のクオリティは非常に高く、全国生協の女性組合員が協力して販売ルートを作り出し、店舗やイベントで販売しました。また、仮設住宅で被災者との交流を通して見えてきた困りごとを解決するために、生協のネットワークを生かして解決のお手伝いをしました。地震、津波、放射能汚染という複合被害に見舞われた福島の復興に向けて、様々な取り組みが行われています。日本生協連は2011年から10年にわたり、家庭の食事からの放射性物質摂取量調査を行いました。調査にあたり、はじめは不安を抱える福島の女性組合員中心の参加でしたが、全国生協の女性組合員の不安の声を受け入れ、生協全体の取り組みとして、普段の食事の2日分を提供していただき、定期的に調査を行いました。これは全国生協の女性組合員の安心だけでなく、被災地に対する風評被害拡大防止にもつながったのではないかと思います。また、被災地の事業者、生産者の復興支援のため、女性組合員たちは自分たちが暮らす地域で被災地の商品を買い支えたり、視察を通して生産者の思いを聞き、他の組合員と学び合い、伝え合いながら被災地商品のプロモーションなども行っています。また、福島の子どもたちや子どもの心身の健康に不安を感じる保護者、特に母親の気持ちに寄り添って保養プログラムを全国生協で開催いたしました。 東日本大震災から11年が経ちましたが、完全に復興したとは言い切れない現状があります。私たちはこの震災を忘れず、経験を継承していくことが大切です。また、将来に備え、防災・減災に取り組んでいくことも重要です。現在、女性組合員が行っているのは、ローリングストックというコンセプトの普及です。これは、緊急時に使える食材をストックし、日常の暮らしで食べて補充を繰り返すことです。学習会などでは、火を使わずにできる食事のレシピなども提供しています。さらに、女性組合員が日々の暮らしの中で得た知識、例えば被災時に使用できる新聞スリッパの作り方などを出し合って、災害への備えを広めています。こうした学習会が被災地の生協から全国の生協に広がっています。生協は助け合いの組織です。誰かが困っていたら助けてあげたい。この精神が根付いています。女性組合を中心に被災地、被災者が一日でも早く普段の暮らしに戻れるよう、様々な形で支援を今なお継続しています。本日ご紹介した取り組みはごく一部です。支援をする中で、生協間のつながりだけでなく、被災地、被災者、生産者、他団体、行政などとのつながりも大切にしてきました。私たちは、これからも人と人とのつながり、心と心のつながりを大切に、安心して暮らせる地域社会づくりに取り込んでいきたいと思います。ご清聴ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much, Ms. Araj, for that presentation about the part played by women from the Japanese consumer cooperatives. Much appreciated. Our second speaker is Ms. Chitra Subha, General Manager at the National Cooperative Federation of Nepal. Chitra will talk about the devastating earthquake in Nepal in 2015 and the response by NCF, the apex organization in Nepal. Chitra, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Balu Iyer, Regional Director of ICAP. And dear all panelists, dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and namaste from Nepal. It's my great pleasure to get opportunity to be a panelist in this very important NGO CSW 66 forum. Thank you again to organizer for inviting me in this very important event. My presentation is about the impact of Nepal earthquake 2015 on cooperative business and individual members with a focus on women and intervention by National Cooperative Federation of Nepal, NCF Nepal. At first, let me introduce the National Cooperative Federation of Nepal, NCF, where I belong. The NCF is the apex body of all types and levels of cooperatives in Nepal, and it was established on June 20, 1993. And it has been serving various services to the members and community with a vision of a leading federation of sustainable and decent cooperative movement. Its prime tasks are advocacy and lobbying, national and international representation, member support to business, promotion, good governance, institutional development, guidance and monitoring, study and research, training and education. Currently, it has 311 member organizations, including all central level federation, national cooperative bank, provincial level unions, and district level unions. And it is apex level organization of all 29,886 primary cooperatives with 7.3 million individual members. Now let me talk the impact of Nepal earthquake 2015 on cooperative businesses. The epicenter of earthquake with 7.8 magnitude was in Gorkha district of Nepal, which lies in the central part of the country. And most affected districts were 14, and 8,969 people lost their lives, and 22,321 people were injured. Due to earthquake, large number of infrastructure, cultural heritage were damaged and destroyed, worth around 608 millions. The earthquake affected various sectors of Nepal, including cooperative. 518 cooperative buildings were fully collapsed, and whereas 105 business portals like chilling center, processing plant, collection center were fully damaged. As a result, the production and supply chain were disrupted. Similarly, due to the uncertainty, saving and credit cooperatives also faced various problems to run smoothly, resulting high default rate and loss of official records of cooperatives. Now let me talk about the impact of Nepal earthquake 2015 on individual members. As per the study report prepared by cooperative sector, 1,080 cooperators lost their lives, where more than 50% were women. Likewise, 1,446 cooperators were injured by the earthquake. The earthquake of 25 April 2015 and its several aftershocks, cooperatives could not provide their services to the members at full potential. It's largely affected member business. Competitively, women were highly affected by the earthquake, as they have to be busy inside their home for care homes and other business. Sudden building damage took more life of women after the earthquake. Most of them had to stay at common tents or shelter. So they had to face a lot of problems like sexual violence, harassment, care works, etc. You can imagine the scenario. I still remembered the horrible day. It was Saturday in afternoon. It was holiday. Most all the offices and schools, colleges were closed. Most of the people were at their home. As soon as the earthquake hit the nation, we immediately gathered at NGO office and decided to support people who were affected. At the same time, the NGO has appealed national and international forum for instant rescue and other support. Likewise, NGO established a cooperative disaster relief fund. Like NGO, following the appeal of the NGO, cooperative unions and primary cooperatives engaged in the rescue and relief program, which were highly appreciated. And the cooperation among cooperatives was also very much effective during the hard time. The less affected cooperatives supported heavily affected cooperatives and members, distributing relief materials and temporary shelter. Now I'll talk about the intervention taken by NGO based on cooperative principles and values. Actually, what we did. NGO received the international support to, like, from IPCO, IFCO, ICA, Genju, and IDACA, which were distributed to the affected people. NCF distributed 10,000 packs of relief materials and 9,900 seedlings packs to the affected people that was provided by IFCO. And NCF received the fund, raised the fund around $550,000 US dollar. And NCF also contributed the fund to the Prime Minister Disaster Relief Fund. And NCF mobilized as a grant and soft loan to the region. The lost business for 41 cooperatives of 14 mostly affected districts for rebuilding of cold storage, processing center, chilling pad, collection center, and so on. Nepal is prone area of natural disaster, not only earthquake. The landslide, floods takes a lot of lives. So cooperative sector, where large number of people are associated, need to have preparedness plans on disaster management. Some of the key learning we received are we need to focus on strong member bonds. And also we need to aware members about possible disaster and possible way to minimize the damage, especially focusing the women. And also disaster and pandemic relief fund in cooperative, disaster preparedness education plan in advance, online, offline database system for instant data collection and business continuation plan. And also we need to close coordination and cooperation among stakeholders and psychological and consciousness counseling. Last but not least, I believe that cooperative sector can play vital role on disaster management in terms of mitigation, preparedness, response, recovery, and many more in collective way. Government of Nepal also highly appreciated and recognized the efforts of cooperatives during the earthquake time. Thank you very much. That's all from my side. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Chitra, for taking us through the devastating effect which the earthquake had not only on the country and its population, but also on cooperatives and the way in which they were impacted, and the actions taken by NCF to address not only immediate but long-term needs. And your presentation also showed the true reflection of cooperation among cooperatives. So thank you very much for your presentation. Our next speaker is Ms. Marina Morrison, the CEO of the Business Council of Cooperatives and Mutuals in Australia. She will be talking about the once-in-a-lifetime bushfire in Australia in 2019-20 and the response that BCCM and other cooperatives took to address the needs of members. Marina, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Iyer. I will share my screen. Thank you. Thank you, ICA Asia Pacific. Thank you, Balu and Women Cooperators. Greetings from Australia. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today about the impact of the Australian bushfire disaster in 2020 on cooperatives and on women. The BCCM, the Business Council of Cooperatives and Mutuals, is the national apex body for cooperatives and mutuals in all sectors of the Australian economy, established in 2013 as a legacy of the United Nations International Year of Cooperatives. We are responsible for research, education, and advocacy for the sector, but we are also a network to unite the sector to work together in times of crisis. Australia is a continent prone to extreme weather events, floods, fires, drought, and cyclones. This is increasing in impact as climate change worsens. The Black Summer Australian bushfires were on a scale never before seen in Australia or indeed across the world in terms of their calamity. The impacts included the near total destruction of townships and housing, loss of crops and livestock, loss of community facilities and schools, loss of life, social isolation, and the ongoing effects of trauma. Women were impacted as caregivers, key workers, and small business owners as the bushfires raged across many remote and regional areas. They lost their long-term income and livelihoods. Many of these cooperatives are anchor businesses in the townships in retail, financial services, and community services. They and their members were impacted by the bushfires. The fire destroyed their buildings, their assets, and the crops of the members of the farm cooperatives because of smoke taint. After the fires had raged through the townships, children lacked somewhere that they could play and reclaim a sense of normalcy, which has led to mental well-being issues. One of the biggest challenges facing communities still to this day was the social isolation that results from this disrupted living arrangements. Women played a significant part in the immediate emergency management response and the longer-term recovery through their informal work and essential role as community volunteers through many community organisations such as the Country Women's Association, the Rural Fire Brigade, which is voluntary firefighting services, and the State Emergency Service, which is also a volunteer disaster response service. There is a considerable amount of research showing that women are disproportionately impacted by climate change and the disasters that result. The recent report from the UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change notes the specific impact of natural disasters on women. The research specifically on Australia in this report found that in rural areas where these bushfires were, women take on additional responsibilities and that they experience poorer mental well-being as a result of extreme heat, which is a contributing factor to these bushfires. The report also found that the pre-existing economic and social inequalities for women negatively impact their ability to adapt to climate change and its longer-term impacts. Here are some photos of the fires and their impact, not only on townships and human environments, but also on wildlife and the Australian bush in the early phases of the recovery. Loss of life was 33 people, including emergency responders, firefighters, almost 4,000 homes, and 17 million hectares of land were burnt, many of it being prime farm land. More than 1 billion birds, reptiles, and mammals died in the fires. Here is some photos from a women-led cooperative, Australian cooperative called Coop. They are working with their communities in the aftermath of the disaster. Coop brings organic farmers together to share their knowledge, resources, and create community. The co-op raised funds to run mental health programs and organised volunteers to help farms impacted by fire to recover. They delivered free hay and other farm inputs. Importantly, their response was informed by women farm leaders as well as the men who are on the farms. It focused on informed responses, starting in many cases with simple phone calls and asking the question, "Are you okay?" What do you need? Interventions by the Australian cooperative and mutual sector include the Australian Mutuals Foundation. It's an Australian charity funded by credit unions and mutual banks. In November 2019, they launched their Australian bushfire appeal. Media coverage of the devastating fires had catalysed support from cooperatives around the world seeking a trusted partner to receive and distribute financial distributions to impacted communities according to cooperative development principles. AMF received almost $400,000 in donations from organisations and individuals, including the Asia Pacific Credit Union Movement. AMF worked with the cooperative movement and local credit unions to distribute the donations through small grants to more than 20 community organisations to help them recover and rebuild their communities at the community level. As the peak body, we produced research that looked at the role of primary producer cooperatives in responding to the bushfires. Our research highlighted the role that cooperatives can play in building community resilience as climate change increases the occurrence of natural disasters. From the recommendations of this report, we have called for government to include cooperatives in national resilience and recovery planning following their vital contribution to rebuilding their communities. The report highlights how the community relationships of co-ops and mutuals meant that they could offer support both in the immediate emergency aftermath, but during the long ongoing rebuilding efforts that follow devastation from natural disasters, including getting cash payments to women who have the primary responsibility for household budgets and caring for young and elders, and reopening community spaces used for childcare, education, and cultural activities. Time and again, we have seen cooperative principles and values at work as communities gather to support one another after disaster. The cooperative case studies in our research are women-led in Australia. Cooperatives have helped their members by reducing margins on key recovery items such as farm inputs and fencing. They have secured discounts from suppliers and passed that on to their members rather than increasing their surpluses. They have provided free access to tools and building equipment and weather monitoring equipment, and established farmers markets to promote their members' produce and deepen social bonds when there was a loss of farm income and social isolation because shops were closed. As member-owned organisations, co-ops put members and the community first, not only as first responders, but in the long-term social, emotional, physical and financial recovery. Their transparency and governance allow for quick decision-making and direct accountability chains to allow for immediate action after a disaster like the summer bushfires. Key learnings thus are that communities need self-determinism to rebuild after disaster. The social capital and trust that co-ops build in times of disaster allows them to support individuals and communities in locally informed ways. To support women as they support their families and communities after natural disasters such as the devastating bushfires, we need to equip women with the information on how to mobilise their local communities to use the cooperative model to retrofit ownership of assets and to build back stronger. Co-ops are there for the long term. They reinvest in their people and community, including women. They never walk away and they build resilient communities with women leaders. We have called for the Australian government to fund a national cooperative disaster recovery centre of excellence to study and share the response of co-ops to the summer bushfires and the recent floods that Ms. Browning mentioned in her opening video. We look forward to sharing the results of this research if we are funded. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marina. The pictures that you showed were quite stark. You can as well imagine what the situation would have been on the ground. Very important presentation in which you highlighted the role that cooperatives have played. But I think one important point which you highlighted is the need for research and advocacy. So it's not just doing on the ground, but how do we bring attention of policy makers? So that I think is a very important learning for all of us. So thank you very much for your presentation. Our next speaker is Ms. Joselita Cardona. She is the treasurer of the Philippine Cooperative Center and board member of the National Association of Training Centers for Cooperatives, or NATCO. She will focus on typhoons which have hit Philippines as recently as 2020. Ms. Cardona, the floor is yours.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, you can.
Okay, good afternoon. Good day to everyone. My topic is on the focus on the impact of typhoons Bamko and Ghani last year, 2020, on cooperative businesses and individual members with a focus on women and interventions by the Philippine Cooperative Center and NATCO in the Philippines. For the short introduction of PCC, PCC was formally registered as a tertiary cooperative on March 10, 1997. We are now at 25 years in operation. It has 30 founding cooperatives, leading national, regional, and large primary cooperatives all over the country. As of now, PCC is the only cooperative organization with credible and truly registered member federations, billionaire and millionaire primary cooperative supporters, and Union of Cooperative Supporters in the Philippines. PCC is a venue for interaction among federations, unions, primary cooperatives, and the Cooperative Development Agency, and mainstreaming of cooperative businesses and participation in different aspects of development with government agencies and private sector. NATCO is one of the federation members of PCC. NATCO is a national federation with 2,242 offices, with 56,546 employees, having 6,450,714 individual members, of whom 55% are women. We have 869 primary cooperatives. NATCO has Gender and Development Committee, where chairpersons sit in the boardroom to represent women and represent in ICA Committee on Women. Now I will be presenting to you the impact of typhoons Bamko and Ghani in the Philippines last 2020 on cooperative businesses and individual members. As you can see, this is an actual picture when Typhoon Bamko hit our country. Both Bamko and Ghani greatly affected our country with the reduction of our local economic activities, not only on cooperative businesses, but as a whole, due to some injuries and deaths, extensive damage of properties, public infrastructure, seaports, airports, and farming sectors. Over 2.3 million affected people across regions. Over 23,089 individuals displaced in evacuation centers. Over 46,987 individuals displaced outside evacuation centers, and around 12.8 billion production losses at farm commodities. The photo on the right is an actual scenario in my place, where our primary cooperative office nearly located. Destruction or whatsoever happened in the offices of our cooperative, but members, around thousands families within our locality, especially women and children, were seriously affected. And this is the usual scenario in the evacuation centers. In our local place, we distributed food and water to family members and non-members in our community with evacuation sites for them to bridge the hunger. Relief goods, mats, blankets, towels, slippers, among others, are the relief goods that we give to them. Stories of women share with us that they have no proper sanitations and comfort rooms or toilets. We all know that as a woman, we are more prone to abuse than men. Most of the women stays in the evacuation sites to take care of their children. In this slide, you can see our affected women members receiving goods during our actual survey of the damages and impact of typhoons to our members. We heard different stories coming from them. As you can see, a woman smiling during our relief operation, but actually she related to us that a big tree hit and destroyed their house and then swept away by flood. She's happy receiving relief goods from us. The third photo, as you can see, that is me, personally giving relief goods to our women members. The experience of seeing the pathetic, tragic situation of the victims, especially women, is a heartbreaking scenario. Outside evacuation, these are some impacts to the pregnant women and women with children. This too is just the face of women suffered after typhoon and flooding. The lack of access to adequate sanitation and hygiene facilities and materials are one of the most problems of those members who partially and totally destroyed properties. We have registered and accommodated around 600 families and given relief goods for the whole week with a subsidy to rebuild their homes after Typhoon Bamko hit our place. PCC and NATCO initiated to collect donations coming from cooperative members and other supporters for the rehabilitation program. And as one of the cooperative beneficiaries, they channeled us some of the donations. We have received almost 1 million pesos cash donations coming from different cooperatives and relief goods for the victims because our location was hardly affected by Typhoon Bamko. The spirit of cooperation among cooperatives is alive in the Philippines in terms of disasters and calamities. In this slide, PCC and NATCO initiated different climate change initiatives to have a proactive action. Cooperative in the Philippines are well positioned in leading climate action program in the communities. Our outreach is rooted at the grassroots level with a deep knowledge of the people and the environment. Our seventh principle, concern for the community, reminds us of our role as stewards of our natural assets and made possible by the Community Development Fund. In the Cooperative Code of the Philippines, we have to allocate 3% from our net surplus yearly for our Community Development Fund. This is to support our cooperation among cooperatives program and climate change action program for the benefit of the community. The photo shows some of our initiatives, the bamboo planting along the riverside to protect soil erosion and soon to be livelihood of the people by making bamboo crops. Cooperatives support the rehabilitations of some small businesses of our members for them to be able to continue. This is just a few of our interventions. But to make it more strategic, NATCO trained cooperatives, 286 cooperators from 100 cooperatives for climate action program. The training of cooperatives for climate action with NATCO, partnered with Asian Confederation of Credit Unions or ACU, have guided the cooperatives in integrating climate action agenda in the cooperative core programs. Action plans were developed so that implementation is ensured and measured. To reduce the adverse impact of processes on the environment, to promote the efficient use of power, water resources and materials, to improve water waste management and reduce air and water pollution and climate-related risks. In order to encourage more cooperatives to integrate climate action in their core programs and to implement it sustainability, NATCO and ACU launched the Green Co-op Award in October 2021. The cooperatives will be assessed based on the following perspective: improve environmental and climate awareness and knowledge, reduce energy and emissions, manage resources and waste, and invest in green and climate smart technology. As for my learnings from Typhoon, Bamko, and Ghani is that, number one, relationship is the most important in our lives. Let us treasure the people we love and our relationship with them, because we never know when it will be the last time to be with them. Being with our loved ones matter in times of crisis and disasters. Love our Mother Nature. Every cause has an effect. If we take care of our Mother Nature today, our future generation will still enjoy the nature that we have. Small things are the big things if we are doing it together. And material wealth is temporary. It can be gone with a snap. What is important is that we are healthy because we have a healthy environment. Again, small act when multiplied by millions of people can transform the world and be the solution, not the pollution. That's all. Thank you very much. If you want to reach us, these are our contact details. Happy International Women's Month to all of us.
Thank you very much, Joselita, for your presentation. And it's important that you highlighted the sustainable development goals and how we need to, as cooperatives, also need to link our work with the SDGs. So thank you very much for your presentation. So that was the 4 presenters we heard from, the different natural disasters that they encountered and the responses that were made. So a big thank you to our speakers for presenting the impact of the natural disasters have had on their communities and the way in which cooperatives have responded to their member and community needs with a focus on women. So thank you for that. I think we have seen a number of learnings from these presentations that we can keep in mind for natural disasters are going to be a recurrent phenomenon in the Asia Pacific region. In fact, it's been classified as the most disaster-prone region in the world. One is, how do we ensure that we make our members aware about the possible disasters and possible ways in which we can minimize damage? And an important point which Ms. Arai mentioned was, remember, I think we need to keep in mind what has happened in the past, how we've responded, and make our members aware of it. The importance, again, of creating a fund, be it or a rolling stock that Ms. Arai mentioned, the fund, whether we call it a relief fund, a stabilization fund, or by any other name. But it's important that we create funds so that we are able to immediately respond to needs. The importance of data and research was also highlighted. I think we need to have real numbers when we are talking about the type of interventions which, the impact which it's had and the type of intervention that we made, and using both data and research in order to advocate becomes very important. The need for business continuity plan, disaster recovery center, which Australia, BCCM in Australia has proposed, I think are again very important, so that we continuously have a plan, because again, disasters are going to recur. So we need to have plans in place. And how do we connect, coordinate, and cooperate? And one important point which I think ran through all the presentations was, while we look at the physical impact, we also need to address mental and psychological issues. I think that's an aftermath. Even the COVID-19 pandemic has shown the number of mental issue cases which have come up have only grown over time. So we need to also see how we can address that part of it. So again, what we can conclude is that given women are disproportionately impacted by disasters, we need to preemptively strengthen their resilience and access to resources, as Marina mentioned. And the reason for this is well captured by UN Women in their explainer, why women need to be at the heart of climate action. They say, because women possess unique knowledge and experience, particularly at the local level, their inclusion in decision-making processes is critical to effective climate action. Participation of women in natural resource management is associated with better resources governance and conservation outcomes. So I think the importance of keeping women at the center, the role of cooperatives with values and principles comes out very clearly. So again, I'd like to thank all our speakers for their excellent presentation, and more importantly, the type of intervention that they have made at the level of members and the community. And of course, the kind of support that they've received, not only in country, but from across countries. So the cooperative principles of cooperation among cooperatives, concern for the community, have clearly come out from all the presentations. So thank you very much. And this brings us to the close of our first session. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Are we now ready for our second session? Balu, you
1 minute, 1 minute. We're just waiting for one more person.
Okay.
Nice to see you.
I'm still here in our farm, so I hope our pigs and carabaos will not participate.
Okay, we are ready to start session 2, and I hand over the floor to Silvia Paragora, CEO of NAPCO Philippines, to take over as moderator of the second session. Silvia, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Balu. Thank you for this opportunity, the privilege to moderate 2 panels of session 2. And the theme for this session is safeguarding the future, making people climate resilient by future-proofing cooperatives. The first panel will be on the importance of climate-friendly practices, processes, and products for women cooperators. The second panel is on the importance of forest conservation and natural resources management for climate action and the role played by women cooperators. Our panel will be just for 30 minutes. I will throw a question to you. No PowerPoints here. You have 3 minutes to answer. After all of you have spoken, we have a common question for all of you. So the audience can ask questions in the chat box and the panelists can answer them because there will be no questions from the participants on the floor. So I'm still used to seeing you. I use the floor, but now we're on air. There will be no PowerPoints. There will be strong points from very powerful women. So here, the panelists that I have here, we have Miss Elenita San Roque, the CEO of the Asian Confederation of Credit Unions. Can you have a heart emoji for Miss Lenny? We also have Miss Mina Pokril, Acting General Manager of Nepal Agricultural Cooperative Central Federation. Where are you, Miss Mina? Miss Abir Omar, the Capacity Building Program Coordinator of Economic and Social Development Center, Palestine. Hello, ma'am. And Miss Samadani, my friend, Samadani Kiriwandinaya, the representative of the Sanasa Federation of Sri Lanka. So good afternoon, powerful ladies. This will just be a chat between us and we just relax. Now, the first question, you have 3 minutes to answer and you are time for this presentation. Miss Elenita San Roque, you have recently launched the Credit Union Solutions Guide as part of your pioneering role to mainstream climate-friendly products and practices in cooperatives. Can you give light on this initiative and how is it implemented among members in Asia?
Yes, thank you very much, Sylvia. Yeah, thank you very much, Sylvia, and good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon or good morning, wherever you are. Yes, that is right. The Asian Confederation of Credit Unions has actually launched 2 credit union business solutions pertaining that will address climate change. One is the Guide to Credit Unions on Climate Action. And the second one is the assessment tool for green cooperatives. I think before go deep diving into what this is all about, I would like to give credit to ICA regional office, because after attending the workshop on climate action in November 2019, together with delegates from NATCO, at that very moment, when we hear about the impacts of climate change on people's lives, we become very, very conscious. Yes, there is something that we need to do in the cooperatives because, when we talk about climate mitigation, cooperatives will always tell us, yes, we are doing something. We are tree planting. We are cleaning the ocean. But there is so much more that we can do. So the guide for credit unions on climate action is actually a solution that will help more than 50% members of the cooperatives who are women. Because women are increasingly being very vulnerable to climate change. And they constitute majority of the members of the cooperative because they depend on natural resources, and natural resources threatens in climate change. So what is the solution? The solution is to reform the lending services, to introduce a more robust consideration on climate impacts on every loan that we are granting to our members. In that example for that is that we introduce the 6 C's of credit. We usually have only 5 C's. Right now we have the 6th C, which is climate compliance. We also build a culture of climate stewardship by putting climate lens in the products and services of cooperatives and credit unions, and in our systems of operation in our offices, and the way we do in our credit union. We also enable informal women workers to run their own green enterprises. But before that, we don't care about it. For as long as women are engaging in business, we are happy. But now we are talking about green enterprises. The fourth one is we are very good in educating our members, And we would like to always put that in the fabric of education to our members, because only awareness is necessary for us to take action. In that solution, we also ensure all policies and procedures are considered against their carbon impact and climate mitigation. And the last one is, what we are always doing, we have to build partnership with civil societies and local government on nature conservation and resist the effects of climate change and environmental pollution. So the assessment tool for Green Cooperative is a carrot. So once they implement it, we will give you reward. It's a reward. We are not environmentalists, but we only use common sense. So in the implementation, we pilot it with Sylvia. I think I'm very happy that Josie mentioned that we have that program already. We have trained 100
Last
cooperatives so far. Yeah. So Sylvia, I think I give credit to Sylvia also for embracing the program. And we have, and in NATCO, the last time we counted, it was more than 100 cooperatives being trained. So
thank you,
over to you.
Lenny. Thank you. Thank you for the credit union business solutions, which now integrate climate practices in the whole of the lending operations, even in assessing the applications. Now we move to our next powerful woman from Nepal. Agriculture is one sector that is directly affected by climate change, be it excessive rains, drought, soil pollution, and it is the sectors where cooperatives are present in large number and directly impacted. Could you explain the ill effects and practical challenges that farmer members, especially women, face because of this in Nepal? Take it away, Miss Mina. You are muted. Can you unmute yourself? You are muted. We cannot hear. Okay, thank you.
Namaste, and thank you for providing me this an opportunity to be here. And yes, since the establishment of the NSCCFL, that is NSCCFL is the Nepal Agricultural Cooperative Central Federation. This is the Federation of Small Farmers. Though this is the Federation of Small Farmers, majority of its members are women, and they are responsible to carry out all the agricultural activities. And now under the NSCCFL, we do have the Climate and Forest Committee consisting of the 9 members from different provinces. And they are responsible to look after all the activities associated with the climate and forest. And now we have started from 2017, we have started Go Green campaigning, and it's a Go Green campaigning for youth. And youth are very much responsible to doing the green enterprise and clean enterprise. So one thing they are doing this to campaigning the promotion of organic farming, campaigning for the promotion of the IPM-based agricultural practices, and besides this, we are doing the capacity building of the program. And now another thing that the NSCCFL is the secretariat of the celebration of the International Year of Family Farming. And now we are shouldering the responsibility as a secretariat to family farming plus 10 UNDYFF. And I think most of us, we know that they have a 7 pillar, and each of the pillar is clearly mentioned. Climate change is the cross-cutting issue, and it's clearly mentioned in the cooperatives and farmers organization and the climate issue. And we have developed the action plan, and it related to climate change, and it has already been submitted to Ministry of the Agriculture to carry out these activities like promotion of that is greenhouse, polyhouse among the farmers, and that they have already started the climate smart agriculture. And now 215 cooperatives from Mill Hills and Hills, they are doing the climate smart agriculture, they have improved their cattle seed, plastic tunnel, water harvesting pond, and drip irrigation. They have started drip irrigation, and women and youth friendly tools and technique for the agricultural farming. And one district, they have been campaigning for the plastic free zone. Like now they are success to do the to maintain the plastic free zone. That is all in agriculture part. And let me go quickly in the energy part, that we are doing the promotion of the alternative and renewable energy among the cooperatives. And till now, more than in Middle Hill, it's like 90% of the cooperative members, they have the renewable energy, like they are using biogas and then solar power and that homemade compost manure. This is what. And third, I just want to link that even though you say that you have to do this, you have to do this, you need to do finance. So we are doing the, we are making the, we are linking with the financial institution for the cooperative energy efficiency investment, like in groundwater irrigation and other. And rest is that, yes.
Yes, we can wrap up.
Yeah, okay. That's why, and other that is, we are just drafted the policy for this climate friendly, climate smart agriculture within the cooperative, and it has been submitted to ministry. That's all.
Thank you, Ms. Mina. So a lot of things happening to have climate smart agriculture and the use of renewable energy. Now we move to Ms. Abir Omar. EDSC is supporting certain activities. Can you share with us your climate smart practices? And I understand that you are helping set up home gardens and distribution of seeds. What are your eco-friendly practices and processes and products? Ms. Abir, please.
Yes, thank you. Good morning or good afternoon, everybody. Thank you. I'm glad to be part of this session. We have in Palestine, in fact, main challenges for cooperatives that can be connected to climate change and environment. First of all, the climate change in Palestine has its negative effect on the periods of the agricultural seasons. This results in some agricultural crops has limited production in certain times, and other times we have surplus where the agricultural production is being wasted or sold with the prices lower than even the cost. Also, we have the high cost of production inputs in light of scarcity of resources. We have the shortage of water since we have no control over our water resources in Palestine, and due to fluctuation in the rainfall. Also, we have the occupation continuous practices of land confiscation and water control, and beside their control of waters. What kinds of eco-friendly practices we have did as ESDC in Palestine with the cooperatives? We worked a lot on the renewable energy. We went to design and install solar systems for cooperatives who need large quantity of electric to operate their businesses, their machines, ovens, refrigerators, freezers, mainly for the cooperatives who works in food processing and the consumer cooperatives. The solar system, as you know, are necessary to since it's a clean energy source and to reduce the cost of electricity, which also increases the feasibility of the economic projects for these cooperatives. Also, we worked on wastewater treatment and reuse, as in light of the shortage in water we have here. We established wastewater recovery, treatment, and reuse systems with capacity over 300 cubic meter per day in certain locations. Also, regarding the water, we worked on decreasing the salty percentage in the salty water through using the ionizing technology. The salty water can't be fit to irrigate the agricultural crops. And in Palestine, the percentage of salt in water is a little bit high. So this worked to solve part of the problem. Also, we have entrepreneur initiative of establishing what called biogas digester. Two dimensions are operating for producing liquid natural fertilizer to replace the chemical fertilizer, producing more than 500,000 liters of liquid of natural fertilizer. This can be used as a substitute for the chemical fertilizers that we put in the soil. Also, we worked on the technique of water harvest, where during the rainfall, this technique works to collect the water comes from rain, from the roof or the top of the greenhouses, and so it can be stored in other places in order to be used in a later time of the year. Also, we have planting what called Bamko. ESDC worked on expanding planting Bamko plant. This plant is a fodder crop. It can live in salty soil. It's a great substitute for other kinds of fodder for livestock, and it has low cost. Also, this is opportunity for this crop to decrease the cost of fodder in Palestine, which will hopefully reduce the cost of livestock breeding. Also, we work to support women cooperatives. Yeah.
Can we wrap up?
Okay, maybe we can continue through the discussion.
Yes.
Yes.
So that's all. In another round, maybe you can share some more. So thank you very much for the sharing. We have heard another unique initiative in your country, specifically about the water and how you help make sure that you're able to save water and reduce the salinity. Thank you very much, Ms. Abir. For Ms. Samadani Kiriwan Dinaya, SANASA is enhancing the natural disaster resilience of its member societies by developing 10,000 sustainable villages as part of its Lasana Lanka to improve the resilience of 100 societies. Why, according to you, is the resilience of co-op societies, especially for women who are part of your large strip and credit movement, important? And can you shed light on what aspects of their businesses are directly being positively impacted by your initiative? Take it away, Samadani.
Right. Thank you very much. Very nice to be with all of you. Actually, in 2016, SANASA Sri Lanka launched Lasana Lanka program, which is Beautiful Sri Lanka. It was a project that was initiated to address several things. One, the climate degradation and how to recreate the environment so that we can breathe fresh air and eat good food. The second issue was that we were eating a lot of unhealthy food, and toxic issue has been, brought to a very, to the market as if one of the pressing issue that needed to be addressed. So to enable more healthy food in the nearby, rather than depending on the market on toxic food, was another issue. The third issue was addressing the income of smallholder farmers. So all three put together was packaged into a beautification of Sri Lanka with good organic food production in the home gardens, and then connecting those things with the market. But also in that organizing process to address some of the climate issues in the surrounding areas where the cooperatives were living. So we selected out of the several thousand cooperatives, 100 good leading cooperatives who were climatically, who were sensitive, whose leadership was sensitive to climate changes, and who thought that there has to be some proactive, engagement to address some of these issues through the movement. So by 10,000 villages, because each cooperative surrounding area is about 5 to 7 villages. So the catchment area is about 7 villages. So put together 100 societies, about 700 villages. So we thought the ripple effect would be gone to another 300. So the ambitious target of 10,000 villages was taken into this project. So after we launched the project, 79 agents selected from the strong cooperatives were trained. There were several things that were done. One was a very thorough education for all the agents. So one thing that we realized was most cooperatives are doing their cooperative businesses, but they are not. They talk about climate, they do environmental issues, sometimes they plant trees, sometimes they do environmental sensitive programs, but they are not fully organized with the proper program. And officer mandated to implement something in long term. So we selected a group of climate leaders, basically environmental leaders from these cooperatives, and they were given through Sansa campus and Sansa Federation got together and gave a very thorough environmental education program, giving them understanding of why food sovereignty, then environmental sustainability is important when we are thinking about future-proofing cooperatives. So that I think what ECHO presented would add more to that program in the future to go, because I think there can be more organized way of assessing this project. But in this project, the way that we planned it, we had 3 levels. One is to get the lifestyle and the home more eco-friendly. So address a lot of environmental waste and see how smart we can create our living styles. So get rid of most of the unhealthy, dangerous aspects out from children and your immediate surroundings in your village, in your home, and get the home more, energy sensitive and energy saving units. Then the second one is immediate surrounding, where you can have more herbal and medicinal plants that are available, so that you don't have to depend on, pharmaceuticals always. So to have more, healthy surrounding in your home front. Then the third one is your home garden, to get it into more, forestry kind of agriculture rather than very monoculture using a lot of toxic. So to have more food available, have more environment and fresh air available. So these 3 put together was an individual task for the members. So, but in addition to that, the cooperative societies were given a mandate to identify the most pressing climate issue in their areas. So for some, they who were residing near the sea, it was mostly like sea erosion, then, the mangrove plantation and many other things. There were some urban cooperatives. Yeah.
Can we wrap up? Finished?
Yeah.
Yes.
So basically, it was an individual plan and a cooperative plan aligned with a market plan. So I will stop this presentation to say that this program is now connected with another project which we are targeting with 200 cooperatives aligned as smart agriculture. So converting the environmental program into a more organized production program aligned with a lot of eco-friendly practices with market leaders who are promoting sensitive eco-friendly co-op enterprises. So it's a long-term program, but we have initiated something, and we can talk more, I guess, later.
Thank you very much, Samadani. So we have seen the initiatives not just at the institutional level, where we look at the practices of the cooperatives, but we've also seen the practices at the individual members level, not just from the individual to the cooperatives, but even to the bigger communities. So it's really from individuals to co-ops and now the villages, and that means the whole country. And there are recurring activities and processes across the 4 presenters. Thank you very much for the sharing. The time right now in the Philippines is 3:30. I think we're over our time. So last question for all of you. If you were to share your thoughts in 1 sentence, now I'm reducing it to 1 sentence. How will the climate-friendly practices, processes, and products be made reality for women cooperators? How do we really do it? 1 sentence. I'll start with Lenny. Yes, Lenny, unmute yourself. How do we really make it a reality for women? Yes, Lenny? 1 sentence.
We need to demand commitment and commit ourselves to take stand and act.
Okay, commitment and that women should make a stand. How about Miss Mina? 1 sentence?
Yes, that is information dissemination. That majority of the women, they even don't know what they are doing, what it is impact. So it's the information dissemination.
Thank you. Miss Abir, 1 sentence for you also.
Yes, so we need to work together hand in hand, countries, organizations, cooperators, in order to develop and adapt climate-friendly practices for our countries.
Samadani, 1 sentence.
I think we should promote more collective education with collaboration with the market knowledge and best practices.
Thank you. So the 4 key takeaways: commitment, and that the women make a stand, info dissemination, work together across sectors, across cooperatives, and now the last part is your best practice collection among the different cooperatives and countries. Thank you very much to these powerful women. Can we get an emoji of heart from all the participants? Thank you very much. So I do not see the hearts. Where are the hearts now from the participants? Okay, thank you. So we're now on the second panel, and this one is on the importance of forest conservation and natural resources management for climate action and the role played by women cooperators. Am I seeing the panel members now here? The panelists would be Dato Kamarudin Ismail, Board Member, Malaysia National Cooperative Movement or ANCASA Malaysia, and Board Member ICA and Vice Chairperson ICA Asia and Pacific Committee on Agriculture. Another panelist, Mr. S.P. Singh, Managing Director, Indian Farm Forestry Development Cooperative and Vice Chairperson, ICA Asian Pacific Committee on Forestry. Then we have Ms. Dulce Bustamante, the Vice Chairperson, ICA Asian Pacific Committee on Youth Cooperation and Go Green Campaign Volunteer, and Mr. Asan Ali Takur, former Chairperson, ICA Asia and Pacific Committee on Youth Cooperation and Go Green Campaign Volunteer. Are we all here? So I think we are here. So just like the previous panel, we have a directed question to each of you, and you have to answer in 3 minutes. So let me start. 3 minutes, I will tell you to wrap up when you reach 3 minutes. So for Dato Kamarudin Ismail, ANCASA has recently launched 1 Million Trees initiative as part of its CSR Co-op Care program. Can you tell us about this new initiative and its importance? Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Sylvia. Okay, well, since you give me 3 minutes, I try to to make myself, I don't know, I try my level best. Okay, talking about the 1 Million Trees initiative, it's actually a forest conservation program under the Angkasa CSR Co-op activities. So Co-op is Angkasa flagship program for community care, whereby Angkasa gathers our resources to contribute into numerous community activities. For example, flood relief efforts, COVID-19, AIDS, and of course, the 1 Million Tree, which is Community Environmental Awareness Program. The 1 Million Trees initiative is an initiative of Angkasa, which will be implemented continuously as one of the commitments in supporting Malaysia Greening Agenda and the United Nations Decade on Ecosystem Restoration 2021 until 2030. Through a commitment to plant 1 million trees in a period of 2 years, Angkasa, as the APEC body representing more than 14,000 cooperatives with over 7 million individual members, launched the 1 Million Trees initiative as one of the efforts to mobilize cooperatives in tackling global warming and climate change. Given that Angkasa is committed to lead the Malaysian cooperative movement to contribute in meeting the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. So, as everybody are aware of, large part of cooperatives are involved in agriculture activities. Global warming and climate change are two major challenges in the sustainability of cooperative, especially towards farmers. This environmental conservation initiative is very significant because forests play an important role in ensuring environmental sustainability, providing food resources, clean water supply, oxygen sources, and as an ecosystem for various biological flora and fauna. Angkasa has identified a plot of 20 acres forest reserve area, which is going to be turned as cooperative adopted forest reserve, whereby cooperative members and public, even international cooperatives who are interested, will be able to actually get involved and contribute by sponsoring a tree to be planted at this site. This is something very, very, very good for us to share. And as a start, Angkasa is making use of a half-hectare degraded forest reserve by planting 312 trees from 9 different forest species, including our national tree of Malaysia. We call it the merbau tree. Well, it is hoped that activities in these 2 areas can help the government's efforts in preserving the environment, which aims to increase at least 20% of the Malaysian terrestrial and inland water forest area in the next 10 years. Have I completed my 3 minutes?
Perfect.
Well, exactly.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much. Now,
okay. I can
Datu, we
elaborate
now...
later if there is any question.
Yes, you have the chat room to discuss with them. Now we go to the young generation for Asan Ali Takur and Miss Dulcie Bustamante. This is now about the question for the Go Green campaign. Can you give us the highlights of the Go Green campaign so far? Since there are 2 of you, I will give you 3 minutes each and the count starts now. Who will go first?
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Hi.
Yes, go.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone. Glad to be on this forum to support the cooperative and the women. In terms of the Go Green campaign, I just like to inform you that the Go Green campaign started with a single question: how is cooperative, SDGs, and the youth are interrelated? What is the reason that they are supposed to be together? So that's the Go Green campaign's initiatives, that you need to plant, the youth needs to plant or conserve the environment of their own community and secure the environment, the cleanness, the environmental readiness, and also to create jobs in that perspective. So the Go Green campaign came into being on 3 things. It has to be a cooperative, it has to be youth, and also it has to be related to the environmental factors. As we've observed in 10 or 20 years that things were just stale and nobody knew about what the climate action was about. But in the last 10 years, we can see that it has progressed recently with the awareness movement. And the Go Green campaign is all related to how the cooperatives can come into being and provide the initiatives of what a cooperative youth can do for the community in terms of making things greener and better for the communities. That's how it came into being. And just to give one of the data in the last Go Green campaign is we were able to plant about 17,000 trees from more than 10 countries, as well as about 3 regions participated. The Asia Pacific, Africa, and the American region participated in making things much more greener. So you can see the enthusiasm, the energy, the profoundness that even in COVID-19, we were able to keep on going with that movement. And that's the basic things about the Go Green campaign. I'm not going to take a lot of time just to end this my discussion here. The recently Miss Meena Pokhriyal from NACCFL also mentioned about the Go Greens campaign, and their organization has been a very productive and active part in this particular sense. And I'm just going to take their examples that they were able to talk in the ministries and to propagate the youth and the women to be a part of the Go Green campaign. So I think I have given a decent enough image of what the Go Green campaign is coming from, going to, and what kind of movement we can expect in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. How about you, Miss Dulce?
Hi, good afternoon, Ma'am Sylvia, and to all our panelists this afternoon. So here I am representing the International Cooperative Alliance Committee on Youth Cooperation for the Asia Pacific. And I would also like first to greet my fellow colleagues from the ICYC. So for the question of the highlights regarding the Go Green campaign, of course, the brainchild himself here, our former chairperson, Mr. Asan Ali Kapoor, did a lot of things for the Go Green campaign. And for me, as far as we are celebrating the Go Green campaign on its 4th year, one of the major highlights in this event is that first, when we launched this program in 2018, we started with ICYC itself. But look at the program last year on our 3rd run. We have joined the Americas and the Africa region to join in with the Go Green campaign. This is one of the major highlights that we are really proud of. We have joined a lot of youth organizations. We have been joined by a lot of youth cooperatives to join the campaign and to help reach the goal of SDG. So to give you some kind of more scene or more application of these highlights, speaking here as a Filipino or here in the Philippines, what we did as part of our highlights is that we encouraged every youth cooperative and every member of those youth sector to plant 3 saplings. And here in my region, we prioritize planting the 3 saplings beside the roads, which do not have any shading or do not have any plants or trees at all. If you'll ask me why was that location prioritized, it is because in the near future, these trees will grow higher, these trees will grow taller, and the future generation, the future young people, and the future children will benefit from the shading that the trees will give. So, and also, you know, we have been in the pandemic for almost 3 years already. One of the highlights of the Go Green campaign is to continue serving the youth, continue serving the purpose of the Go Green campaign. And we have touched on home-based planting and urban gardening through the past year. We provided different saplings and seedlings to every household or to every youth organization that we are involved in. And through home-based planting, they do not need to go out of their houses just to serve the purpose of Go Green campaign. So for me, this will be the highlight of the Go Green campaign so far.
Thank you very much, Dulce. Now we move to Mr. Singh, The protection of natural resources is important for the sustenance and overall well-being of communities, especially those living in the rural areas. How do women cooperators who are part of the network manage natural resources in their immediate environment? Take it away, Mr. Singh.
Okay, good day to everybody. I would like to tell you our organization, Indian Farm Forestry Development Cooperatives. We are basically dealing in two natural resources mainly, that is forestry, and second is about water. We have done a lot of work on forest. We have formed about 152 farm forestry cooperative societies who are having a membership of about 19,000 people, out of which 89% people are landless or small and marginal farmers, and 34% are women members. So far, we have been able to convert about 29,000 hectares of barren land into lush green forests. And in the process, we have covered about 500 villages, more than 500 villages, and we have formed about 400 self-help groups, out of which about 92% are women members. And we are having an inventory of about 11 million trees at present. Many of the plantation work we have done in saline and sodic soils, also in some of the waterlogged areas. And as a result, in waterlogged areas, now it is a home to migratory birds, residing about more than 100,000 birds. Also in the other areas where the forest has been developed, it is a home to wildlife. And recently also, now last 4 or 5 years, we have changed our focus, because earlier the plantation which we have done was having long gestation period. Now we are growing fast growing species like melia and bamboo, and especially on the farmers' fields, because the availability of the land is decreasing for plantation purposes. Also, the farmer, when the plantation is done on the farmer's field, they are able to take care of the plantation, and the survival is more. Also, we are doing plantation on farmer's field for the agri-horti model, the fruit, different kind of plantation of fruit plants we are growing on the farmer's field. And as far as the impact is concerned, I would like to say that every year about 15 million tons of carbon is getting sequestered through this forest on 29,000 hectares of land. Also, the community, rural community which is living nearby, they are able to collect about 21,000 metric ton of grass fodder for their cattle. And the nearby community is able to collect non-timber forest produce, which is giving them income generation, source of income generation. Also, it is helping in soil erosion to the tune of about 134,000 metric tons per year. And it has generated employment, cumulative employment of about 5.2 million work days. And these forests are acting as a biodiversity conservation, acting as a bird sanctuary and a wildlife natural habitat. In addition to that, also we are doing plantation of the trees which are on the verge of extinction. And also we have made a traditional traditional plantation we are doing, like in India, whatever the traditional plants are there. So in 40 hectares of land, those trees we are growing, so that these are that is natural habitat. These trees start growing well, and we don't lose out on the biodiversity.
Wrap up, sir. Wrap up, please.
Okay. As far as IFDC efforts for creating space for women, we are providing opportunity in plantation and forestry work. We are providing them equal wages, and we are giving them reservation in forestry cooperative membership. And we have created space for women in the board of forestry cooperatives. We are organizing self-help groups and building their capacity. we are going for skill development and micro enterprise development. And in IFDC board also, we have 2 women members who are getting elected and then coming on our board. As far as plantation work is concerned, the women, about 5.2 million work days have been provided, out of which 73% given to women members who are engaged in pit digging, nursery raising, planting saplings, sowing and weeding, and pruning and such other kind of operations.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
We will wrap up. So thank you very much to our presenters. We have just had a glimpse of the 1 million trees initiative, the Go Green campaign, and we saw the benefits of really putting back our forests. Now we can see our birds, now we can see our traditional plants, and it will be a better world for all of us. We are short already of the time, so I think we are now ready to move on to the next panelist. But thank you very much to the panelists for this session. There are many things that other cooperatives can already look at, so that we just don't plant 1 million trees. We are 1 billion cooperators. We should target bigger in terms of the trees that we will plant. So a big heart emoji for all the panelists in this session. And now I turn it over to Ms. Simrin, who will facilitate the last panel discussion. Thank you very much. I am Sylvia Paraguya from the NATCO Network of the Philippines. Congratulations to all.
Thank you very much.
Back to you, Simrin. Oh, where are they? Okay, thank you, Simrin.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sylvia. We also have a guest speaker for the closing ceremony with us. I warmly welcome Dr. Chandrapal Singh Yadav, who is the President of ICA Asia and Pacific and Chairman, Krishak Bharti Cooperative Limited, CRIPCO India. A very warm welcome to you, sir, and we request you to please present your thematic address.
Good afternoon. Cooperative greetings to all. Let me begin by congratulating the ICA Asia and Pacific Region Office and its committee on Women and Forestry for hosting this side event during the NGO CSW 66 forum. The key mantra for climate action is working together. As we speak, we are battling cyclone in India, floods in Australia, earthquake in Japan, etc. Through natural disasters affect life and cooperative businesses individually. Cooperative take collective step to support those affected. We all agree that women are proportionately affected by climate change. There is no such area where gender equality is not spoken of, including the fight for climate justice. Why? This is because climate change most severely affects the poor and marginalized. I would like to draw your attention to cooperative principle 5, education, training, and information that can act like a steering catalyst to ensure that we include women's needs and issues in our discussion making and decision making and practices. We can not only use this as medium to educate women about climate change, but also train them to become resilient and adapt at taking the effect on their own. I would like to underline the importance of safeguarding cooperative from future ramifications of climate change. This can be done by ensuring that we act today and learn from each other on how best we can adopt mitigative strategies in the interest of women cooperators and as well as communities at large. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Yadav, for that inspiring message, which is indeed very forward-looking. And once again, thank you for joining us in the program. I would now like to sum up our program. The response of cooperatives certainly go beyond emergency support and focus on building the resilience of members, especially women. We learned today that women are very much part of the response actions of cooperatives. And with this, please allow me to do a quick recap of the program. Australia has had a fair share of natural disasters in the past, including the bushfire crisis in 2020 and the ongoing floods. The bushfire crisis led to the burning of 17 million hectares of land, loss of lives and property. Dealing with traumatized communities, co-ops have helped members, especially women, to rebuild their enterprises by focusing on grants, incentives, resilience planning, and support. In spite of facing severe damages during the Great East Japan earthquake in 2011, followed by tsunami and nuclear disaster in Fukushima, the consumer co-ops in Japan provided immediate relief support to members and continued store operations to serve their needs. Women members of consumer cooperatives led a national fundraising campaign to rebuild livelihoods of nuclear disaster victims. While discussing the devastating impact of typhoons such as Bamko and Ghani in the Philippines, it was shared that PCC and NATCO took interventions based on co-op principles and values. Further, NATCO and ACO have taken conscious decisions to integrate climate action agenda in their core co-op programs. The 2015 Nepal earthquake caused severe damages to over 500 cooperatives in the country. The losses included loss of official records, loss of livelihoods, high rate of defaulters, limited or reduced production due to no access to raw materials. And with the support of international cooperative movement, the National Cooperative Federation of Nepal, NCF, raised more than $55,000 as relief support to help rebuild the co-op sector in Nepal. We also learned about various initiatives taken by members, such as the importance of mainstreaming climate-friendly products and sensitivity in credit unions, as promoted by ACU. Agriculture is one of the main areas that is directly and adversely affected by climate change. And we learned about the ill effects that it has on women farmers. Also, enhancing food security of people is closely linked to climate protection, and our member ESTC is working very closely with cooperatives in the Palestine to support food security initiatives. Building resilience of poor women members in the cooperative, thrift and credit sector is very important, as highlighted by our guest speaker, Ms. Samadini from Sanasa Federation. For a sustainable future, we need stronger health of our natural resources, including water and forests, and initiatives of our members, such as the 1 Million Tree Campaign by Ankasa and Go Green Campaign by the IC Asia and Pacific Committee on Youth, remind us of that. At the end, we very much agree with our guest speaker and chairperson of IC Asia and Pacific that the key mantra for climate action is working together. With these important learnings as our takeaways and stronger conviction to combat climate change together with a gender and of course a youth-based gender lens, we thank you all for joining. Hope you stay safe and healthy. Bye-bye to all of you, and please stay safe and healthy.